The chrome and glass corridors of Europa Station buzzed with activity as Kang Do-yeon stepped off his private shuttle. His tailored black suit stood out among the rough miners and cargo haulers who filled the spaceport. The repair bay had given him bad news. His ship needed 8 hours of work before it could make the jump back to Earth. Do-yeon checked his platinum watch and sighed. He had 3 board meetings tomorrow and a weapons contract worth 50 billion credits waiting for his signature. Time was money, and right now he was bleeding both. His stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten since leaving Mars Orbital Station 12 hours ago. The main corridor reeked of engine fuel and recycled air. Holographic advertisements flickered along the walls, promising everything from alien pleasure drinks to black market cybernetic implants. A group of Centauran traders argued loudly near a currency exchange booth, their blue skin gleaming under the harsh station lights. Do-yeon spotted a small diner wedged between a weapons shop and a ship parts dealer. The neon sign read, "Stellar Eats" in multiple languages, including Korean. At least the food might be decent. He pushed through the glass door into a cramped space filled with mismatched tables and chairs. The smell of fried protein and synthetic coffee hit him immediately. Most of the customers were human workers, still in their mining gear or maintenance uniforms. A few alien species sat scattered around, some tall insect-like creatures from the Vega system and a hulking reptilian being that might have been from the Outer Rim colonies. The atmosphere felt heavy, tired. These weren't tourists or business, travelers like himself. These were the forgotten people of the galaxy, the ones who kept the machinery running while others got rich. A waitress approached his corner table, moving with the practiced efficiency of someone who had done this job for years. When she looked up from her order pad, Do-yeon's world stopped spinning. Short black hair framed a face he knew better than his own. Dark eyes that once sparkled with mischief now looked worn and cautious. Above her left eyebrow, a thin white scar ran for about an inch. The same scar she had gotten falling from their backyard tree when they were kids. "Coffee?" she asked, her voice exactly the same despite 20 years of separation. Her name tag read Mira in faded plastic letters. Do-yeon's throat went dry. His hands started shaking, and he gripped the table edge to steady himself. This couldn't be real. The government had told him she was dead. The entire Titan colony, 10,000 people, including his parents and sister, had been destroyed when solar flares overwhelmed their shields. He had seen the memorial broadcasts, attended the ceremonies, mourned for 2 decades, Yuna. The name escaped his lips before he could stop it. The woman's professional smile flickered and died. She took a small step backward, confusion replacing the tired friendliness in her eyes. "I'm sorry, sir. My name is Mira. Would you like to see a menu?" No recognition, no spark of memory. She was looking at him like he was just another customer, another stranger passing through her life. Do-yeon felt like someone had punched him in the chest. "Yes, menu, please." He managed to keep his voice steady while his mind raced. How was this possible? How was she alive? And why didn't she remember her own name? The woman. Yuna, it had to be Yuna. Handed him a worn plastic menu and walked away to check on other customers. Do-yeon watched her move between tables, refilling coffee cups and taking orders. She had the same graceful way of walking, the same habit of tucking her hair behind her right ear when she was thinking. His wrist communicator beeped softly. Without taking his eyes off his sister, he activated the discreet bioscanner function he used for security screenings. The device was military-grade, capable of reading DNA signatures from 30 feet away through skin contact residue. When Yuna returned with his coffee, Do-yeon handed her his credit chip, making sure their fingers brushed during the exchange. The bioscanner worked silently, analyzing cellular material from the brief contact. "Anything else I can get you?" she asked, already turning toward the next table. "Actually, yes." Do-yeon's heart hammered against his ribs. "Do you ever get nightmares? About fire or screaming?" Yuna froze. Her face went pale and the coffee pot in her hand trembled slightly. "How did you—" She stopped herself, shaking her head. "I don't know what you're talking about." But Do-yeon saw the fear in her eyes, the recognition she couldn't quite grasp. Something terrible had happened to her, something that had stolen her memories but couldn't erase the trauma completely. His wrist scanner chimed softly with the results. Forugene match, 99.7% certainty. Biological markers confirmed. This was Kim Yuna, his sister, alive against all odds. The question was no longer who she was. The question was what had happened to her, and who had lied about her death. Do-hyun made a decision that would change everything. He wasn't leaving Europa Station without answers. The rain hammered against the windows of Do-hyun's penthouse office on Neo-Seoul as he stared at the holographic displays floating around his desk. 7 days had passed since Europa Station, and he hadn't slept more than 2 hours each night. The best investigators money could buy were working around the clock, digging into classified files, and following digital trails that most people didn't even know existed. His personal assistant, a sleek android named Unit 7, glided into the room, carrying a steaming cup of coffee. "Sir, Agent Park Min-ho has arrived with the final report." Do-hyun nodded, his stomach churning with anticipation and dread. Park Min-ho was a former Earth intelligence operative who now ran the most expensive private investigation firm in the solar system. If anyone could uncover the truth about Titan Colony, it was him. The door slid open and Park entered, his weathered face grim. He carried a sealed data case that probably cost more than most people made in a year. "Mr. Kang, you're not going to like what we found. Show me everything." Park activated his portable hologram projector, filling the room with three-dimensional images and documents. 20 years ago, the Earth government told everyone that Titan Colony was destroyed by a massive solar flare. Complete electromagnetic devastation, they said. No survivors possible. The first image showed official news broadcasts from that time. Do-hyun remembered watching them, crying as reporters talked about the tragic loss of 10,000 colonists. His parents and sister among them, that was a lie. Park's voice was cold. The real attack came from here. The hologram shifted to show a massive fleet of dark ships, their hulls covered in spikes and glowing red energy conduits. The vessels looked like mechanical nightmares, built for intimidation as much as warfare. The Korvaxi Empire. They're a confederation of 12 different alien species, all united under one goal, expanding their slave labor force. They specialize in raiding human colonies because we're apparently perfect for their mining operations. Do-hyun leaned forward, his hands clenched into fists. What makes humans so special to them? Our adaptability. Most alien species can only survive in very specific environments, but humans can work almost anywhere with basic life support. Plus, we live long enough to be profitable, but not so long that we become a management problem. The hologram now showed detailed schematics of Korvaxi ships. Do-hyun could see weapon systems, shield generators, and most disturbing of all, their cargo holds specifically designed to transport living beings. The attack on Titan Colony was surgical, Park continued. They used neural disruptor weapons to knock out the population without killing them. Then they loaded everyone onto transport ships and disappeared into deep space. Where did they take them? Park's expression grew even darker. Multiple locations. We tracked at least 15 different mining operations across the galaxy. Your sister was taken to Kepler 186F, a planet rich in thorium deposits. It's a hellish place. Constant volcanic activity, toxic atmosphere, and surface temperatures that would kill an unprotected human in minutes. The hologram showed aerial footage of the mining complex. Massive excavation sites stretched for miles, surrounded by dome-shaped structures that looked more like prisons than living quarters. Robotic sentries patrolled the perimeter, their red sensor arrays sweeping constantly for escape attempts. How did you get this footage? 3 years ago, there was a prisoner revolt. The Korvaxi were so confident in their security that they didn't expect organized resistance. Someone managed to hack their surveillance system during the chaos. The image changed to grainy security camera footage from inside the mining complex. Do-hyun watched in amazement as dozens of human prisoners moved through ventilation shafts, following someone who was clearly giving orders and directions. That someone was his sister. Even with 18 years of harsh living etched into her face, even wearing the grey prison uniform of a Korvaxi slave, he recognized Yuna immediately. She moved with purpose and intelligence, leading a group of 43 prisoners through a complex escape route that must have taken months to plan. She got them out, Do-hyun whispered. All of them. The footage shows them reaching a maintenance bay where they stole a cargo transport. The ship was found 6 months later, drifting near Europa Station, completely automated and set on a course for human space. Park activated another file. This is where it gets really ugly. We found neural scan data from the prisoners who were rescued. Every single one had been subjected to chemical memory suppression. The Korvaxi have a drug that erases specific memories while leaving basic functions intact. Do-hyun felt sick. They wiped her mind, partially. The process isn't perfect, which is why she still has nightmares. Her subconscious remembers the trauma even if her conscious mind doesn't. The final hologram made Do-hyun's blood freeze. It showed internal Earth government communications from 20 years ago. Military officials discussing the Korvaxi raid, debating response options, and ultimately deciding to cover up the entire incident. Our own government knew what happened and chose to lie about it, Park said quietly. They were afraid that if people knew aliens were kidnapping humans for slave labor, it would cause mass panic and destroy confidence in colonial expansion. Do-hyun stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the sprawling city below. Millions of people going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their government had abandoned 10,000 citizens to alien slavery. How many other colonies? He asked. At least 30 that we know of. The Korvaxi have been raiding human settlements for decades. Most of the victims are listed as lost to space accidents or equipment failures. Do-hyun turned back to face Park. Are there others like Yuna, other survivors? We estimate several hundred escaped prisoners are scattered throughout human space, most with suppressed memories and false identities. They're living as refugees, workers, even criminals. Anything to survive. The room fell silent except for the rain against the windows. Do-hyun processed everything he had learned, feeling a mixture of rage and determination building inside him. His sister wasn't just a survivor. She was a hero who had saved 43 lives and exposed the greatest cover-up in human history. And somewhere out there, hundreds more victims were still lost and forgotten. That was about to change. The medical facility hidden beneath Do-hyun's corporate headquarters looked more like a luxury spa than a cutting-edge research lab. Soft lighting, comfortable furniture, and holographic displays showing peaceful Earth landscapes created an atmosphere designed to calm patients undergoing the most delicate brain surgery imaginable. Dr. Park Ji-hoo adjusted the neural interface. Headset around Yuna's temples, his hands steady despite the revolutionary nature of what they were attempting. The doctor was a thin man in his 50s, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many broken minds. He specialized in cases that other neurologists considered impossible. The Korvaxi memory suppression drug works by creating artificial neural pathways, he explained to Do-hyun, who watched nervously from the observation room. Think of it like building fake roads in someone's brain to lead their thoughts away from certain memories. What we're doing is very carefully removing those fake roads and rebuilding the original ones. Yuna lay perfectly still on the medical chair, her eyes closed as microscopic nanobots worked their way through her brain tissue. The process had been going on for 3 months now, with sessions twice a week. Each time, small pieces of her past returned like fragments of a shattered mirror, slowly being put back together. The first breakthrough came during week 4. Yuna suddenly sat up in the middle of a session, her eyes wide with terror and confusion. "The ships," she whispered, her voice shaking. They were so big. Black metal with red lights, like bleeding stars. Dr. Park monitored her brain activity on multiple screens, watching as dormant neural pathways suddenly flared to life. "What ships, Yuna? Can you tell me more?" "Transport vessels. Cargo holds full of people. Children crying for their parents." Tears streamed down her face as 18 years of suppressed memories began flooding back. They separated families, put the strong ones in one section, the weak ones in another. Do-hyun watched through the observation window, his heart breaking, as his sister relived horrors he could barely imagine. But he also saw something else in her eyes, not just pain but anger. The same fierce determination she had shown as a child when bullies picked on smaller kids at school. By week 8, Yuna was remembering specific details about the Korvaxi mining operations. She drew detailed maps of the facility layouts, marking guard positions, work schedules, and weak points in the security systems. The purple ones are the worst, she told Dr. Park during one session, sketching alien figures with multiple arms and glowing eyes. They're called Vorthak. They run the mining operations and they enjoy causing pain, but they're also predictable. They follow the same routines every day. And the others? The tall grey ones are Geltari. They're the engineers and technicians. Smarter than the purple ones, but physically weaker. Then there are the Mokrani. They look like giant insects with metallic shells. They handle security and transportation. What amazed everyone was how much tactical information Yuna had absorbed during her captivity. She hadn't just survived. She had studied her captors, learning their weaknesses and planning for escape. During my 3rd year in the mines, I realized something important, she explained to Do-hyun during a private conversation in his office. The Korvaxi think humans are just clever animals. They never expected us to organize or plan long-term strategies. She pulled up a holographic star map pointing to various systems. They rotate prisoners between different mining operations to prevent us from getting too familiar with any one location. But they follow predictable patterns. Every 18 months, they move about 30% of the workforce. Do-hyun leaned forward, fascinated by his sister's analytical mind. How did you figure out their rotation schedule? I started keeping track of faces, who disappeared when they left, and sometimes where they went if someone managed to smuggle back information. After 7 years, I had mapped their entire logistics network. The real breakthrough came during week 12. Yuna's memories of her escape had finally returned in full detail, and what she revealed changed everything. I wasn't the only one planning, she said, her eyes burning with intensity. There was a whole network of us, humans in different facilities who had found ways to communicate through the supply ships. She activated Do-hyun's holographic display, showing a complex diagram that looked like a military operation. We called it the Constellation Network. Prisoners who had learned to hack Korvaxi communication systems, others who had memorized guard routines, some who could forge identification documents. How many people were involved? At least 200 across 15 different facilities. We spent 3 years planning coordinated escapes. The revolt at Kepler 186F was just one part of a much larger operation. Do-hyun stared at the diagram in amazement. His sister hadn't just been a victim or even a survivor. She had been a strategic commander, organizing resistance across multiple star systems while pretending to be a broken slave. Some of the escapes worked, Yuna continued. Others failed badly. But we saved almost 400 people before the Korvaxi figured out what we were doing and started the memory wipes. The final session with Dr. Park revealed the most important information of all. Yuna's memories of other resistance leaders had returned, along with communication codes and contact methods they had used. "Brother," she said, gripping Do-hyun's hand tightly as they sat in his penthouse office overlooking the lights of Neo-Seoul. "I know where the other prison camps are located. I know their security weaknesses. And I know there are still humans, trapped in those places, waiting for someone to come for them." She stood up and walked to the window, her reflection ghost-like against the city lights. The Korvaxi made one critical mistake. They assumed that erasing our memories would make us helpless, but you can't erase what someone learns in their bones. After 18 years of planning and fighting, Yuna turned back to face her brother, and Do-hyun saw something in her eyes that reminded him of their father, a man who had never backed down from a fight, no matter how impossible the odds. "I remember everything now. Every guard rotation, every supply route, every weakness in their defenses. And I remember the faces of every human still trapped in those mines." She moved to his desk and began pulling up star charts and tactical displays. "The Korvaxi Empire thinks they broke humanity's spirit 20 years ago. They're about to discover just how wrong they were." Do-hyun watched his sister work, seeing the brilliant strategic mind that had survived alien slavery and emerged stronger. Whatever happened next, the galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't just endure. They fought back. The hidden manufacturing facility on Ganymede looked like any other industrial complex from the outside. Massive conveyor belts carried raw, materials between towering assembly towers, while cargo ships arrived daily to pick up what appeared to be standard civilian electronics and mining equipment. What the official inspectors never saw were the underground levels where Do-hyun's real work was happening. 6 months after Yuna's memory restoration, the secret operation had grown beyond anything either sibling had imagined. The main assembly floor buzzed with activity as robotic arms carefully constructed devices that would make the Kovacsy Empire's worst nightmares come true. "Show me the quantum communicator prototype," Yuna said to Dr. Kim Soo-jin, the lead engineer on their communications project. Dr. Kim held up a device no bigger than a wedding ring. "This little beauty can send messages across the galaxy instantly, using quantum entanglement principles that make interception impossible. The Kovacsy monitor all traditional communication channels, but they've never encountered this technology." Yuna slipped the ring onto her finger and activated it with a thought command. Immediately, her consciousness expanded across space, connecting her to similar devices worn by resistance operatives throughout Kovacsy territory. She could sense their locations, their status, even their emotional states through the quantum link. "Perfect," she said, feeling the presence of 47 different agents scattered across 17 star systems. "How many units can we produce per week?" 200, but that's pushing our capabilities. Any more and we risk drawing attention from Earth intelligence. Do-hyun emerged from an adjacent laboratory, wearing a prototype suit of adaptive armor. The material looked like liquid metal flowing across his body, constantly shifting and adjusting to optimize protection and mobility. "The armor's learning algorithms are exceeding all expectations," he announced, moving with fluid grace despite the suit's advanced technology. "Watch this." He activated a training hologram that simulated Kovacsy plasma weapons. As energy bolts struck the armor, the material instantly adapted, creating specialized shielding that absorbed and redirected the attack energy. Within seconds, the suit had learned to completely neutralize the weapon type. Each suit remembers every attack pattern it encounters and shares that knowledge with all other units through the quantum network, Do-hyun explained. "The more our people fight, the stronger everyone becomes." Yuna smiled grimly. "The Kovacsy rely on overwhelming firepower because most species can't adapt quickly enough to survive their assault tactics. They're about to discover what happens when humans learn from every battle." The real breakthrough had come 3 months earlier, when they recruited Lee Soo-hyuk, another Titan colony survivor who had escaped from the uranium mines of Proxima Centauri. Soo-hyuk was a brilliant hacker who had learned to infiltrate Kovacsy computer systems during his captivity. "Their entire empire runs on automated systems," Soo-hyuk explained during a strategy briefing, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as he demonstrated his techniques. "Mining operations, transport schedules, security protocols, everything is controlled by AI networks that haven't been updated in decades." He pulled up a 3-dimensional map showing Kovacsy space with pulsing data streams connecting hundreds of facilities. They became so confident in their technological superiority that they never considered the possibility of human infiltration. "Their security is designed to keep prisoners in, not to keep hackers out." Yuna studied the network diagram with the eye of a military strategist. "If we can access their central command systems, we could coordinate simultaneous strikes across multiple facilities." "Better than that," Soo-hyuk grinned. "We could turn their own security systems against them. Imagine their surprise when their guard robots start releasing prisoners instead of restraining them." The training facility occupied an entire asteroid that Do-hyun had purchased through shell companies. Former prisoners arrived weekly, brought by ships that officially carried medical supplies and construction equipment. Each refugee brought valuable intelligence about Kovacsy operations and capabilities. Yuna personally oversaw their transformation from broken survivors into elite resistance fighters. The training was intense but necessary. These people would be infiltrating the most dangerous facilities in the galaxy. "Remember, the Kovacsy expect humans to fight like desperate animals," she told a group of 20 trainees during combat practice. "That's their first mistake. We fight like humans, with intelligence, creativity, and absolute determination to protect our people. The trainees practiced with weapons designed specifically to exploit Korvaxi weaknesses. Sonic disruptors that interfered with their hearing-based communication systems, electromagnetic pulse grenades that disabled their cybernetic implants. Even simple tactics like coordinated movement patterns that confused alien sensors designed to track individual targets. But the most powerful weapon was something the Korvaxi had never encountered: human loyalty. Every person we rescue becomes a force multiplier, Yuna explained to Do-Yun during a late-night planning session. They don't just fight for themselves, they fight for their families, their friends, and complete strangers who share their species. The Korvaxi conquered other races by breaking their will to resist. They can't break something they don't understand. The quantum communication network allowed real-time coordination between resistance cells across the galaxy. Yuna could simultaneously brief operatives on Europa Station, coordinate supply drops near the Vega colonies, and provide tactical support for rescue missions in the Centauri system. Phase 1 is complete, she announced to the assembled team, leaders 6 months after the operation began. We have agents in position, weapons deployed, and communication systems active across 17 star systems. The holographic display showed their network in all its complexity. Hundreds of human operatives connected by invisible quantum threads, armed with technology the Korvaxi had never seen, and unified by a purpose that transcended individual survival. Sufis. Enemy still thinks they're fighting scattered groups of desperate refugees, Yuna continued. They have no idea they're facing a coordinated military operation led by people who learned their tactics during 18 years of captivity. Do-Hyun watched his sister address the team, seeing the natural leader she had always been but had never had the chance to become. The Korvaxi had tried to break her, but instead they had forged her into something far more dangerous than they could imagine. Tomorrow we begin Phase 2, Yuna announced. Operation Homecoming starts at dawn. The revolution was no longer coming. It was here. The command ship, Phoenix Rising, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 186 system. Its stealth coating making it nearly invisible against the star field. Yuna stood on the bridge wearing her adaptive armor, watching the tactical displays as 17 other strike teams checked in from across the galaxy. Today marked exactly 20 years since the Titan colony raid. Today, humanity would answer that crime. All teams report ready status, came the voice of Lee Suyok through the quantum communicator. He was positioned near the Vega mining complex, leading a team of 30 former prisoners who had spent months planning this moment. Yuna activated her personal comm unit, connecting to every resistance operative simultaneously. Brothers and sisters, 20 years ago the Korvaxi thought they had broken us. They were wrong. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate human determination. The first phase began at exactly 0600 hours, coordinated across multiple time zones and star systems. On 17 different worlds, human prisoners who had been secretly armed and trained began their uprising. At the thorium mines of Kepler 186F, Yuna's personal target, the assault started with Suyok's cyber attack. From his hidden position, aboard a supply ship, he infiltrated the facility's central computer network, turning the Korvaxi's own technology against them. Security grid is down, he reported. Guard robot patrol patterns are now running in reverse, and all cell doors will unlock in 30 seconds. Yuna watched through her helmet display as chaos erupted throughout the mining complex. Prisoners who had endured years of slavery suddenly found their cell doors opening while their guards' weapons mysteriously malfunctioned. The Korvaxi had never planned for their own systems to rebel. Strike Team Alpha, move in, Yuna commanded, leading her assault group through the main entrance. The adaptive armor flowed around her body like liquid metal, automatically adjusting to deflect the desperate plasma shots from confused Korvaxi guards. The purple-skinned Vorthak overseers, so confident in their technological superiority, found themselves facing humans who moved with coordinated precision. Every prisoner who joined the fight was equipped with quantum communicators, creating a hive mind of tactical awareness that overwhelmed the aliens' individual fighting styles. In the main processing center, a massive Mokrani security captain charged toward a group of escaped prisoners. its metallic shell gleaming and mechanical arms, extending razor-sharp cutting tools. The humans scattered in what appeared to be panic, but it was actually a carefully rehearsed maneuver. As the alien reached the spot where they had been standing, sonic disruptors hidden in the floor activated, sending vibrations through its exoskeleton. That shattered the internal organs. The creature collapsed, defeated by technology it had never encountered and tactics it couldn't comprehend. "Sector 7 is secure," reported Captain Park Hyun-soo, one of Yuna's most trusted operatives. "We've got 200 prisoners armed and ready to move on the command center." Similar reports flooded in from across the galaxy. At the uranium mines of Proxima Centauri, former prisoners used electromagnetic pulse weapons to disable Korvaxi cybernetic implants, leaving the tall grey Geltari engineers helpless without their technological enhancements. On the ice world of Titan Beta, resistance fighters had modified mining equipment into improvised weapons, using industrial lasers to cut through alien battle armor, while modified transport vehicles became armored assault platforms. But the most devastating attacks came from the coordination itself. The Korvaxi had conquered dozens of species by fighting them individually, never facing an enemy that could communicate instantly across interstellar distances and adapt tactics in real time. Yuna reached the command center of Kepler 186F just as reports arrived of successful liberations at 6 other facilities. The room was filled with holographic displays showing the mining operations status, but now those same screens displayed human faces, former prisoners who were taking control of their former prisons. The facility's Vorthak commander, a creature named Thexvor, who had personally overseen Yuna's torture sessions, cowered behind an overturned desk as armed humans surrounded him. "This is impossible," he snarled in broken standard. "Humans are weak. Humans cannot organize." Yuna removed her helmet, letting him see her face clearly. "I am Kim Yuna of Earth. You remember me, don't you? Cell Block 7, Level 15. You tried to break my spirit for 18 years. The alien's multiple eyes widened in recognition and terror. "You were memory wiped. You cannot remember. I remember everything." Yuna activated the facility's communications array, broadcasting on all Korvaxi military frequencies. "I remember every beating, every friend who died in these mines, and every human child you stole from their families." Her voice carried across the galaxy, reaching Korvaxi commanders on dozens of worlds where their secure prison facilities were simultaneously falling to human resistance. "Today, humanity reclaims its stolen children. We are not your slaves. We are not your victims. We are your end." The broadcast triggered panic throughout the Korvaxi Empire. Reports flooded in of successful prison breaks, sabotaged mining operations, and entire fleets of transport ships being captured by their former prisoners. The aliens' military command structure, designed around controlling passive slave populations, collapsed when faced with coordinated resistance. Within 6 hours, 12 major facilities had fallen completely to human control. By the end of the first day, over 1,500 prisoners had been liberated and were actively fighting alongside the resistance teams. The turning point came when the humans began using captured Korvaxi ships to attack other prison facilities. The aliens' own technology, now controlled by people who understood its weaknesses intimately, proved devastatingly effective against its former masters. On Earth, Do-hyun watched the reports streaming in through his secure communication network. His sister's face appeared on screen after screen as news of the uprising spread throughout human space. The forgotten Waitress from Europa Station had become the symbol of humanity's refusal to surrender. "Sir," his assistant announced, "we're receiving surrender requests from 3 different Korvaxi sector commanders. They're offering to release all human prisoners in exchange for safe passage out of those systems." Do-hyun smiled grimly. "Tell them to contact my sister. She's the one they'll be negotiating with." By the 3rd day, over 3,000 humans had been freed from Korvaxi slavery. The empire that had seemed unstoppable was crumbling as world after world fell to human-led uprisings. Their slaves had become their conquerors. Their victims had become their nemesis. The galaxy watched in amazement as humanity demonstrated something the Korvaxi had never encountered: the refusal to accept defeat, no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. Standing in the command center that had once symbolized her enslavement, Yuna looked out at the stars where human ships now flew free, carrying rescued prisoners home to families they thought they'd never see again. The Korvaxi had tried to make humanity into broken slaves. Instead, they had forged them into something far more dangerous: a united species that would never again allow their people to disappear into the darkness. The revolution was complete. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The end.